Good morning, children. Second year botany continuation chapter. First chapter continuation. First chapter transport in plants. Transporting plants. Transporting plants. Transporting plants. First chapter continuation. So yesterday up to we completed especially water potential osmosis. Today we are going to discuss one new topic of the first chapter, that is plasmolysis. That is plasmolysis. That is plasmolysis. Plasmolysis. Now, what is plasmolysis? Before going to discuss about the plasmolysis, we have to remember solutions are mainly three types. Before going to the plasmolysis, you came to know about three types of the solutions. And what are the three types of the solution? One is isotonic solution. Isotonic solution. One is isotonic solution. Another one is hypotonic solution. Another one is hypertonic solution. So solutions are mainly three types now. First one is isotonic solution. Second one is hypotonic solution. Third one is hypertonic solution. But what is hypertonic solution? Means if the external solution balances the osmotic pressure of the cytoplasm. If the external solution balances the osmotic pressure of the cytoplasm, so the solution is called isotonic solution. So isotonic solution have same concentration with cytoplasm. The concentration of cytoplasm, the concentration of isotonic solution, both are similar. So that's why there is isotonic solution which can balances the osmotic pressure of the cytoplasm. So that is called isotonic solution which balances the osmotic pressure of the cytoplasm. Okay, so it can balance the osmotic pressure of cytoplasm. That is called isotonic solution. Okay, next what is hypotonic solution? If the solution is more dilute than cytoplasm, if the solution is more dilute than cytoplasm, so that is called hypotonic solution. The solution which have more dilute, which have less concentration than cytoplasm, that is called hypotonic solution. Hypotonic solution means which is more dilute than cytoplasm, which is very less concentration than cytoplasm. That is the hypotonic solution. But what about hypertonic solution? Hypertonic solution having more and more concentration than the cytoplasm, which is more concentrated than the cytoplasm. So the hypertonic solution having more and more concentration than the cytoplasm, so which is more and more concentrated, so that is hypertonic solution. So three types of the solutions you can remain: isotonic solution, hypotonic solution, hypertonic solution. Suppose if you keep the cell in isotonic solution, there is no net movement of water inwards and outwards. Both are stable. Equilibrium is carried out. There is no net movement of water inside and outside of the cell. when you keep the cell in isotonic solution. Suppose if you keep the cell in hypotonic solution, the cell becomes bulbous. The cell becomes swells. If you keep the cell in hypotonic solution, it becomes swell. It becomes swell. Suppose if you keep the cell in hypertonic solution, the cell becomes shrinks. The cell becomes shrinks. The cell becomes shrinks. Okay. In this isotonic solution, there is no net movement of water inside and outside. Nothing will happen to the cell. But whereas if you keep the cell in hypotonic solution, the cell becomes swell, bulbous, turgid cell. Suppose if you keep the cell in hypertonic solution, the cell becomes shrinks. Okay. So then after, what is plasmolysis? Plasmolysis is generally occurs when the water moves out of the cell. When the water moves out of the cell, plasmolysis generally occurs when the water moves out of the cell. When water moves out of the cell, causing cell membrane shrinks from the cell wall, causing cell membrane shrinks from cell wall. Plasmolysis occurs when water moves out of the cell. As a result, cell membrane shrinks from the cell wall. When you keep the cell in hypertonic solution, so this is called plasmolysis. When you keep the cell in hypertonic solution, cell membrane, water will move out of the cell. Cell membrane shrinks from the cell wall. This is called plasmolysis. So water moves out. First, the water lost from cytoplasm. Then the water lost from vacuoles. So, because the water is drawn out, the water is diffuses outside. In this situation, the water diffuses outside of the cell. So, because of the shrinking of cytoplasm from the cell wall, so this phenomena of the plasmolysis occurs at the cell wall corners. First, plasmolysis initially this phenomena occurs at the edges, at the corners of the cell wall. First, the plasmolysis starts at the corners of the cell wall. First the plasmolysis carried out at the corners of the cell wall. So this is called incipient plasmolysis. Incipient plasmolysis. So when the water diffuse out of the cell, cytoplasm shrinks from the cell wall. So this type of the plasmolysis occurs first at the corners of the cell wall. Initially this phenomena occurs at the corner of the cell wall. So that type of the plasmolysis is called incipient incipient means initial, incipient plasmolysis. If you kept the cell for long time in hypertonic solution, cytoplasm completely shrinks. So that type of the cell is called plasmolyzed cell. So that type of the cell is called plasmolyzed cell. What is plasmolyzed cell? If you keep the cell for a long time in hypertonic solution, cytoplasm completely shrinks. Cytoplasm completely shrinks. So that type of the cell is called plasmolyzed cell. So generally, that type of the cell is called plasmolyzed cell. That type of the cell is called what? That type of the cell is called plasmolyzed cell. So generally, water only moves in these plasmolysis. Generally, water moves from high potential to low potential. Water moves in cytoplasm. The cytoplasm having high water potential. So from that, the water moves to the low water potential. If the hypertonic solution having less water potential. So water moves from high potential to low potential. Water moves from high water potential to low water potential. Okay, means low concentration to high concentration. So water always moves from high water potential to low water potential. So when the living cells are kept in hypertonic solutions, that becomes flaccid. Flaccid means shrinks. That becomes flaccid. And for this, in these cells, pressure potential is 0. And in these cells, water potential is equal to solute potential. In these cells, water potential is equal to solute potential. Psi double is equal to psi s. In these cells, water potential is equal to solute potential. Psi double is equal to psi s, but pressure potential is 0. So these plasmolysis generally does not occur in nature. Only some possible exceptions, especially extreme water stress conditions, this plasmolysis will occur, and high salinity conditions, this plasmolysis will occur. So some examples are there in our daily life examples. The pickles, the preserved pickles, and the preservation of meat and fish in salt. These are the examples of the plasmolysis. Preservation of pickles, that is one example to the plasmolysis, and preservation of meat and fish in salt. These are the examples to the plasmolysis. But plasmolysis generally do not occur in nature. Only some possible exceptions only. Extreme water stress conditions, this plasmolysis will occur, and extreme salinity conditions, this plasmolysis will occur. So this is about the plasmolysis. Examples you can remain. Okay, preservation of pickles, adding of the fish and meat, preservation of fish and meat in salt. These are all the examples. So what about when you kept the cell in isotonic solution? This isotonic solution balances the osmotic pressure of the cytoplasm. There is no net movement of the water inwards and outwards. So the equilibrium is reached. In that equilibrium, both are having equal concentration. So the net movement of water is equal to 0 in isotonic solution. But what about if you keep the cell in hypotonic solution? What about if you keep the cell in hypotonic solution? Hypotonic means which are having more water potential and less concentration than cytoplasm. Hypotonic means which having less concentration than cytoplasm and more water potential than cytoplasm. Suppose if you keep the cell in hypotonic solution, what will happen? The water enters into the cell through diffusion. The cytoplasm creates pressure against the cell wall. Whenever the water moves, whenever the water diffuses inside of the cell, the cytoplasm makes pressure on the cell wall. Cytoplasm creates pressure on the cell wall whenever the water enters into the cell. So that type of the pressure is called Tertiary pressure. So that type of the pressure is called Tertiary pressure. That type of the pressure is called Tertiary pressure. So the pressure which is exerted by the cytoplasm because of the entry of water through rigid cell wall, that is called pressure potential. The pressure which was exerted by the cytoplasm for the entry of water through rigid cell wall, so that is called pressure potential. Pressure potential. Psi P. Pressure potential. Because of the rigidity of the cell wall, the cell may not rupture, the cell may not break up because of the rigidity of the cell wall, because of the stiffness of the cell wall. Whenever the water enters into the cell, cytoplasm makes pressure on the cell wall, the cell becomes turgid. So that type of the pressure is called turgid pressure. The pressure which was exerted by the cytoplasm by entering of the water through rigid cell wall, so that is called pressure potential. Psi P. Because of the rigidity of the cell wall, cell may not rupture. Whenever the water entering into the cell wall having rigidity, because of the rigidity of the cell wall, the cell may not break up. Rupture means break up. So this is about the plasmolysis. 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 But what about what is turgid cell? What is turgid cell? What is incipient? What is incipient plasmolysis? Incipient plasmolysis. And what is plasmolyzed cell? Plasmolyzed cell. So further here you can see the diagrams. You can see now. So what is turgid cell? What is called turgid cell? Or what is called turgid cell? Turgid cell means what? So here you can see in this turgid cell, turgid cell means the cell which swells by absorbing water. Turgid cell. How it will happen? By entering of the water. In turgid cell, water enters into the cell becomes swell. This is turgid cell. Whenever the cell was kept in hypotonic solution. Whenever the cell was kept in hypotonic solution. Whenever the cell was kept in hypotonic, okay, hypotonic, whenever the cell was kept in hypotonic solution. Hypotonic solution. But what is incipient plasmolysis? What is incipient plasmolysis? What is incipient plasmolysis? What is incipient plasmolysis? Incipient plasmolysis means what? Incipient plasmolysis. Incipient plasmolysis means what? Incipient plasmolysis. Incipient plasmolysis means whenever you keep the cell in hypertonic solution, whenever you keep the cell in hypertonic solution, whenever you keep the cell in hypertonic solution, the cytoplasm shrinks from the cell wall. So initially this phenomena occurs at the corners of the cell wall. Initially this phenomena carry out at the corners of the cell wall. See here, you can see corners of the cell wall. At the corners of the cell wall, the cytoplasm initiate to shrink. This is incipient plasmolysis. Here you can see corners. At the corners, the cytoplasm begins to shrink. Next, what is plasmolyzed cell? What is plasmolyzed cell? What is plasmolyzed cell? What is plasmolyzed cell? So, what is plasmolyzed cell? What is plasmolyzed cell? So, plasmolyzed cell means here, if you keep the cell for a long time in hypertonic solution, if you keep the cell for a long time in hypertonic solution, if you keep the cell for a long time in hypertonic solution, the cytoplasm completely shrinks from the cell wall. You can see cytoplasm completely shrinks from the cell wall. So this is called plasmolyzed cell. So these are the diagrams. Therefore the diagrams we came to know detailedly about plasmolysis. Okay, plasmolysis. Okay, next. Next topic, Nani. Next important topic. Okay. After the plasmolysis, imbibition. But what is imbibition? What is imbibition? What is imbibition? Imbibition means imbibition is one type of diffusion. Imbibition is one type of diffusion. Water was absorbed by the imbibition is one type of diffusion. Imbibition is one type of diffusion. Imbibition is one type of diffusion. Water is absorbed by the solids. Water which is absorbed by the solids like colloids. Water which was absorbed by the solids like colloids, they enormously increase their volume. So that process is called imbibition. Imbibition is one type of diffusion. Water was absorbed by the solids like colloids that caused them to enormously increase its volume. by observing water, they can increase its volume. So the process is called imbibition. So best example for imbibition are seeds and dry wood. Seeds and dry wood. Examples: seeds and dry wood, which observe water. Seeds and dry wood, these are the examples of the imbibition, which can observe water. By observing the water, they can increase its volume. So here, proteins have more imbibing capacity compared to carbohydrates. One more thing here you can remember: proteins have more imbibing capacity compared to carbohydrates. Proteins have more imbibing capacity compared to carbohydrates. That's why proteinaceous peas that can swell on imbibition more than starchy wheat. Starchy means carbohydrate. That's why proteinaceous peas swell on imbibition more than starchy wheats. So peas show more imbibition than wheat. Because peas are made up of peas having proteins, wheat having carbohydrates. So proteins swell more in inhibition compared to carbohydrates. That's why proteinaceous peas swell more than starchy wheat in inhibition process. So this is about the inhibition. This is about the imbibition. Next, what is root pressure? Next topic, root pressure. But what is root pressure? Root pressure means different ions from the soil are actively transported to the xylem of the roots. Different ions from the soil are actively transported to the xylem of the roots. Different ions from the soil are actively transported to the xylem of roots. Water also follows its potential gradient. Water also follows its potential gradient and increase pressure in the xylem of roots. Water also moves its potential gradient and increase pressure in the xylem vessels. Whenever the water enters into the xylem vessel, the pressure increases. Water follows its potential gradient and increases its potential. So that positive potential, the positive pressure is called root pressure. Water follows its potential gradient and increasing the pressure of the xylem vessels. So that type of the positive pressure is called root pressure. So that type of the positive pressure is called root pressure. Because of the root pressure allows the water into the upward direction. Because of the root pressure, water reaches to the top regions of the small plants. Because of the root pressure, water is reached into the top edges of the small plants. But what is guttation? Root pressure after guttation. Now what is guttation? Excess water collects in the form of droplets. Excess water collects in the form of droplets. If the special opening of special opening of veins, special opening of veins at the tip of grass leaves, special opening of veins at the tip of grass leaves, at the tip of grass leaves or herbaceous plants, herbs. Grass leaves are herbs. So the process is called guttation. So because of the loss of water in a liquid form is called guttation. So extra water collected in the form of droplets. Excess water collects in the form of droplets through the special opening of the veins at the tip of the grass leaves. Because of the loss of water in liquid form is called guttation, which we can see especially in grass leaves and herbaceous plants. So excess water collects in the form of droplets and remove through the special openings of the veins which are present at the tip of grass leaves. That is called guttation. So not only root pressure guttation, transpiration is also carried out. Transpiration is also necessary for movement of water. Transpiration is also necessary. But what is transpiration? What is transpiration? So root pressure suitable only in small plants. But what about large plants, tall plants? So in the tall plants, root pressure as well as transpiration both are very useful to reach the water up to tall edges. So what is transpiration? Generally, less than 1% of water which is reached into the leaves. Less than 1% of the water which is present in the leaves, that is used for photosynthesis. Just less than 1% of the water is utilized for photosynthesis. In the total water which is present in the leaves, in that less than 1% water only utilized for photosynthesis. The remaining water is evaporates into the atmosphere in the form of water vapor. That is called transpiration. So the remaining water, excess water is evaporates through the stomatas. The remaining water is evaporates through the stomatas into the environment, atmosphere. That is called transpiration. So transpiration mainly depends on three physical properties of water. Transpiration mainly depends on three physical properties of water. One is cohesion, second one addition, third one transpiration pull. Now what is these are the three physical properties of the water in which transpiration depends. What are the three physical properties of the water? First one, cohesion. Cohesion means mutual attraction between water molecules. Cohesion means mutual attraction between water molecules. Next, addition means attraction of water molecule with polar surfaces, especially surface of brachial elements. So transpiration pull means driving force which pull water at the top. Transpiration pull means driving force which pull water to the upper parts. Transpiration pull means a driving force which pull the water into to the remaining parts. So these are the three physical properties of the water: cohesion, addition and transpiration pull. Cohesion means mutual attraction between water molecules. Addition means attraction of water molecules with polar surfaces, especially by the surfaces of tracheal elements. Next, transpiration pull, a driving force which pull water to the upper parts. So these are the three physical properties of the water. Okay. Next, what about the structure of the stomata? 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 Okay. So this is the structure of stomata. This is the stomatal aperture. This is the stomatal aperture. These are the guard cells. These two are the guard cells. This one also. These are the guard cell. In the middle, microfibrils are there. Microfibrils. So this is the structure of stomata. This is the structure of the stomata. In the middle, stomatal aperture is there. The kidney-shaped two cells are there. These two cells are called guard cells. The guard cells are in microfibrils. So these stomata are very useful for exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. The stomata are very useful for transpiration, especially the stomata are very useful. Not only stomata, cuticle and lenticels are also useful for transpiration. Okay, stem contain lenticels and cuticle. The lenticels and cuticles also involved in the transpiration process. But here, stomata are mainly two types in animal. What is photoactive stomata? What is photoactive? What is photoactive stomata and what is scotoactive stomata? Photoactive stomata means the stomata which are open only daytime. Photoactive means which are open only in daytime. Scotoactive means which opens only at night time. Photoactive stomata which can open only in daytime, which can carry out the transpiration. What is scotoactive stomata? Scotoactive, which can open only night time, especially in succulent plants. Especially in succulent plants. Best example, cactus and bryophyllum. These stomata are open only night, that can carry out the transpiration process. So that type of the stomata are called scotoactive stomata, which can open only night time. Best example, succulent plants means cactus and bryophyllum. But you can see in dicots, the dicot leaves, the lower end of the leaf contain more and more stomata, whereas in monocots, two ends of the leaves, upper surface, lower surface, both having equal number of stomata in monocots, whereas in dicots, the lower surface of the leaf having more and more stomata. But these opening and closing of the stomata also depend on temperature, pressure, humidity and wind speed. So this is about the stomata structure. Okay, stomata structure, types of stomata. You can remind not only stomata for removing of extra water, they can also exchange the oxygen and carbon dioxide. Okay, stomata structure, types of the stomata. example to the scotoactive stomatas. So these you can remember, which are very important. So today we completed, especially plasmolysis completed, imbibition completed, about root pressure completed, about transpiration, about the structure of stomata, especially we completed. Okay. So in tomorrow class we have to discuss what is apoplast and symplast. Okay, thank you children.